Are you dreaming of an early retirement? Imagine stepping away from the 9-to-5 grind at 55 years old and then realizing Social Security doesn't kick in until you turn at least 62. Well, if you're thinking about early retirement and you're watching this video, I bet you've already considered that fact. You aren't about to make that mistake. But how does retiring early impact the size of the benefits that you've been counting on? This is something many people might not think much about. So let's break it all down and uncover the facts that you need to know about Social Security payments before making the leap into early retirement. What if I want to retire at 55 is an interesting topic because early retirement is something many of us have dreamed about at some point. While the traditional retirement age is often thought of as 65, with proper planning, the potential for an early retirement is a real possibility. First of all, retiring at 55 is a huge milestone. So if that's your goal, you'd be in a relatively small group of Americans. According to Yahoo Finance, just 11% of people retire between the ages of 55 and 59. That officially makes you an early retiree. However, there is one big challenge. Social Security won't be available to you yet. You'll need to figure out how to fund your living expenses during those early retirement years until you can start claiming benefits. Thankfully, I have a few strategies to access your retirement accounts early, so be sure to stick around so you know the ins and outs of two key strategies. But first, let's take a look at the impact of your work history on your benefits. Social Security calculates your benefit based on your 35 highest earning years. Most people come into the workforce between 18 and 25 and begin paying into the Social Security system. Typically, as you gain knowledge and experience over time, your income rises, and incomes typically peak for people between the ages of 55 and 65. This is when you have an optimal level of experience, intellect, and time available for work because your children are most likely grown. But for those imagining an early retirement, those high income years don't happen. And because they don't happen, those that retire early often have much lower Social Security payment calculations than those who continue working. You see, if Social Security is calculating your 35 highest earning years and you retire at 55, that means it calculates your earnings as early as 20 in the calculation. For someone retiring at 65, those early years roll off and are typically replaced with much higher incomes. This results in a substantially higher Social Security payment. Now, what if you didn't start working until age 25 or 30 because you were in school pursuing a master's or a medical or a law degree? Or what if you weren't working because you were raising a child or you took a sabbatical? If you worked fewer than 35 years, those missing years are filled with zeros, which can lower your average indexed monthly earnings and reduce your benefits even further. So how does this work? Let's say for simplicity's sake, you average $50,000 a year from age 25 to age 55. That's 30 years and your total earnings would amount to $1.5 million. But Social Security would divide that by 35 years, not 30, lowering your average annual income to $42,857 and lowering your calculated monthly benefit. Even small gaps in your earnings history can add up over time, so it's important to consider how this might affect your retirement income. If you're stepping away from work at 55, you'll need a strategy to cover your expenses until you're eligible for Social Security. The earliest that you can turn on Social Security payments is age 62. So what do? Well, there are a couple of strategies that may help you bridge the gap until Social Security kicks in. If you're lucky enough to have a pension or a 401k that qualifies under the Rule of 55, those could be excellent resources to tap into. What's the Rule of 55? Well, the Rule of 55 is an IRS provision that allows you to withdraw money from your 401k or your 403b without that usual 10% early withdrawal penalty if you leave your job in or after the year you turn 55. This can be really helpful because typically you'd have a penalty of 10% on any withdrawals made before you turn 59 and a half. It's really important to remember that this does not apply to IRAs, only workplace retirement plans. And if you're a public safety worker, like a police officer, firefighter, EMT, or air traffic controller, you can even start taking penalty-free withdrawals at age 50, a full 5 years earlier. Lastly, a key part to the Rule of 55 that you want to understand is that it only potentially applies to the 401k or 403b that you are currently contributing to at your current place of employment. You cannot access any old retirement plans under this rule. If you're thinking of retiring early, checking whether the Rule of 55 applies to you should be on your list. All right, next, let's talk about 72T distributions. 72T distributions are penalty-free early withdrawal distributions from an IRA or an employer-sponsored retirement plan. What you must do is you make equal distributions from the account each calendar year for a maximum of 5 years or until you turn 59 and a half, whichever is longer. So if you retire at 55, you can potentially take penalty-free distributions from an IRA under this rule, and if you retire before 55, you could take advantage of it as well. You would just need to keep taking the same annual distributions until at least you reach 59 and a half. It's really important to remember that these distributions will most likely be taxable to you, but at least you'd avoid the early withdrawal penalty. Work with a qualified tax advisor to determine how much you need each year and a plan for the distributions. You may be able to separate IRA accounts so that you have an IRA specifically dedicated to the 72T and other IRAs that can be used if needed outside of this rule. It's important to remember that once you start the distribution process under 72T, it cannot be modified for virtually any reason. So if all of a sudden you need more income, you can't access it without subjecting all the other distributions to the 10% early withdrawal penalty. These are two solid ways to potentially access retirement funds at age 55 without penalty. Otherwise, you'll likely need a solid portfolio of investments outside your retirement account to rely on. Hopefully, if early retirement is on your mind, building assets in non-retirement accounts or an HSA is in your plan. The length of this 100% self-funded period of early retirement, it depends on when you decide to claim Social Security. Claiming benefits at 62 reduces your payout to 70% of your full amount. Waiting until your full retirement age, which is around 67 for most people, gives you 100% of your benefit. Now, some people, if it makes sense to them, will delay the benefit until age 70. This is the maximum age to defer a payment. If you do that, it increases to 124% of your full retirement benefit. For math buffs, that's an increase of 8% per year, which is a pretty solid increase. So if you retire at 55, you'll need a plan for at least 7 to 15 years of self-funded retirement before Social Security becomes a factor. For those of you who've been diligent savers and investors, Social Security might just be a bonus in your retirement plan. But if you're counting on it as a primary income source, it's worth evaluating how retiring early could affect your long-term financial picture. As a certified financial planner, my goal is to help people like you figure out exactly how much you'll need to invest to achieve the lifestyle that you want in retirement. Everyone's numbers are unique and they're shaped by their goals and their circumstances. For instance, someone dreaming of traveling the world in retirement while supporting 3 kids and a dog will need a significantly different plan than someone who envisions a quiet life in a cozy cabin up in the mountains. Rules of thumb are good for very general planning, but if you're planning to retire early, having a plan specifically customized to your situation is crucial. No matter your vision, that is what I do. At Celestial Wealth Management, we provide customized financial planning to business owners and their families. You can learn more at celestialwm.com and clicking the Start Now tab. And while you're there, don't forget to head to the Resources tab and download my 7-step guide to building your financial path ebook. And be sure to check out this video next for even more strategies to supercharge your financial plan. Let's make your goals a reality.